What's up my friends, welcome back to the channel. Today I wanted to share some updates about my DIY Green Chartreuse. Since I shared the recipe, I received a lot of comments and suggestions from you guys. It allowed me to improve the recipe, to make it easier and in my opinion, even better. So today we're gonna go through all this and I'm gonna answer some of the most frequently asked questions about the recipe. So if you guys are ready, let's go. Today's video is sponsored by Truffles on the Rocks. I wanted to take a quick moment today to talk about our Patreon. First of all, I wanted to say a big thank you to everyone who's already supporting the channel there. You guys make a huge difference. Now, for everyone who's not familiar with our Patreon, every month I post a recap of the content I shared on the channel the month before in the form of a small cocktail ebook with the recipes, great pictures, tips and tricks, and all that good stuff. It's like if every month you're downloading a new chapter of a Truffles on the Rocks cocktail book. Speaking of which, when I share the recipes for the green and the yellow chartreuse, I've made a dedicated ebook just for that on Patreon, and because we're updating the recipe today, I'm gonna update the ebook as well. So if you guys find this interesting, you can support the channel by subscribing to our Patreon. The link's gonna be in the description below. But now about the chartreuse recipe, about the updates, we're gonna start with what changed in terms of ingredients in the recipe. First, I decreased the anise flavor. I removed the green anise seeds and reduced the star anise amount. Then I added a new ingredient, the Echinacea, that really helps to provide that warm feeling that we love about green chartreuse that was missing in the first recipe. Besides that, everything else is pretty similar. Some small tweaks in the quantity, but that's it. So if you bought everything for the previous recipe, all you're gonna need more is the Echinacea. The biggest change in the recipe is the infusion technique, going from the sous vide infusion to the flash infusion. This was brought up by a lot of you guys because you wanted to know if it was possible to make this even faster, or simply because you didn't have the sous vide equipment. I had my doubts about this technique for this particular recipe, some strong doubts actually, but I gave it a shot and the result was surprising. Not only it works, it has some very interesting benefits. It tends to extract some topper notes of the ingredients, which really helps to mimic the distillation furthermore in comparison to the sous vide infusion. This gets even more efficient for ingredients like herbs such as the Hyssop or the Echinacea, so I guess that if you would really want to take this to another level, you could do the flash infusion for the herbs and the sous vide infusion for the spices, but in order to keep it as simple as possible for everyone, I went all in with the flash infusion and the result was fantastic. Now about the time, it is a little bit shorter, but not that much because I have to let it infuse in the cream whipper for 1 hour in order to get the proper intensity of flavor. So it's about half the time of the sous vide infusion. For me, the only little downside to this technique was the color. It is much lighter than with the sous vide infusion, but overall, that's not a deal breaker. Moving forward, I also got a lot of comments about the Genepi, that we're having a hard time to get some in order to make the tincture. And I just realized there's a good reason for that. It's actually because Genepi is a protected plant. Even if you go to the Alps to harvest some yourself, you're only gonna be allowed to a very small amount. So I guess that's the reason why the herb is really hard to get worldwide. So to make it easier for everyone, I chose to go with Genepi liqueur instead. One more comment I received quite a lot is the fact that some of you tried the recipe a couple of times and didn't get the same result each time. Talking with some of you who had this problem, we came to the conclusion that it was probably due to the fact that some of you were not using the proper equipment. And one piece of equipment that's key to nail this recipe is a precision scale. We're dealing with small measurements of very light ingredients, so a precision scale is key if you want to replicate the recipe to the same level each time. Most of the precision scales that we find online are what we call 2-digit scales. So that means that they go all the way down to 1/100th of a gram. But if you want to try to weight 1/100th of a gram of something that's really light, this scale most of the time will not pick it up. So if you can buy a scale that's a 3-digit scales, that's just gonna make it more precise, and that's very important if you want to make that kind of recipes. Lastly, I realized that if you leave it resting for a little while, it's gonna make for a better liqueur. I recommend at least 24 hours, and then you're gonna notice the flavors melding together, the aroma is gonna get better, and you're gonna see a deposit at the bottom of your bottle so you can decant it to make it clearer. So I think we've said it all, we've covered the most important topics, so we're now ready to make the liqueur, and the first step is to weight your ingredients. Those are all the quantities you will need, so if you want to take a screenshot, that's the moment, but I'm also going to write everything in the description below, and obviously everything is also going to be included in the ebook on Patreon. Once you're done, you're going to place all your herbs and spices in your cream whipper, add 250 ml of 80% alcohol, and don't confuse it with 80 proof alcohol, it's 80% alcohol. Then you're gonna charge the cream whipper with an NO2 cartridge, shake it for about 20 seconds, charge it one more time, shake it one more time, and then leave it resting and infusing at room temperature for 1 hour. After the infusion time, you're gonna release the gas all at once, and I like to cover the spout of the canister with a shaken tin in case some liquid gets spilled. Then you're gonna fine strain it in another container, and at this point the infusion is too intense, so you're gonna double up your yield with uninfused 80% alcohol. Then for every 400 ml, you're gonna add 15 drops of peppermint essence and 8 drops of pine essence. For the essence recipe, you can also refer to the description below, or again, to the ebook on Patreon. Next, you're gonna add 45 ml of Genepi liquor and 10 ml of lemon balm extract. You're gonna add 130 grams of granulated sugar, and in order to get the same percentage of alcohol than the green chartreuse, we're also gonna add 80 ml of filtered water. Then you're gonna stir until everything is dissolved. I'm using a magnetic stirrer here, so that makes it much easier on me, but obviously you can do it with a spoon. Then when it's completely dissolved, it's going to be the time for the final touch and the color change. In a small beaker, you're gonna add 1 single drop of blue food coloring and pour over it about 1 ounce of your liqueur. Then you're gonna add this blue liqueur little by little to your batch, stirring all the time until you're happy with the color. You're probably not gonna use the whole blue liqueur, so you can chug it as a quality control test. Then all you have to do left is to bottle it. So now, obviously, we're gonna give it the traditional side-by-side comparison, starting with the DIY version. Cheers. Once again, for me, this is a big success because it is so close that I have a hard time to pick up some differences if I blind taste both liqueurs side by side. So I really like this recipe. I'm extremely proud of it, and I think that if you're having a hard time finding some chartreuse, you should, without a doubt, give this a try. I put my money on that, you won't regret it. Now for the differences and the improvements, what happened here is the fact that we subtracted a lot of the anise compared to the previous version. We're much closer to the flavor, the original flavor spectrum of the traditional green chartreuse, and the addition of Echinacea makes that liqueur more quoting, warming, which is something that's very typical of the green chartreuse and also something that a lot of people really enjoy in that liqueur. It is a strong liqueur, super bold, but at the same time, it's really comforting and warm, and this is getting much closer to this than the previous version. Another thing I really like about this version is the aroma. Because we use the flash infusion method, it really takes us closer to the traditional distilled aroma from the green chartreuse. So now I think it's really time to try this in a cocktail, and Jeff Pashnik, the patron responsible for the addition of Echinacea in the recipe, tried the DIY chartreuse with a bijou cocktail, and he said it was even better than with the traditional one. So we're gonna take his word for granted and we're gonna give it a try. Let's go. So we're gonna start in a mixing glass with 1.5 ounces of Old Time Gin, 3/4 ounce of our DIY chartreuse, same amount, 3/4 ounce of sweet vermouth. I'm using Cochi di Torino in this one because I really like how the cacao notes pair with the green chartreuse. We're gonna finish this with 2 dashes of orange bitters. Fill the mixing glass with ice and stir it for about 60 revolutions. We're gonna strain this in our favorite cocktail coupe, and before you ask it, this is an antique find I got in an antique shop in Louisville during a trip. So there's probably no way you can get the same thing for yourself. I'm sorry. Then we're gonna express some orange oil over the cocktail, and in this one I like to discard the zest. there you have it. This is how we make the bijou with my DIY Green Chartreuse. Cheers. Jeff, my friend, you were right. This is an exquisite cocktail, and I remember once I said on the channel that the bijou was not my favorite drink, but with those specs, I really like it. Double up the gin for the chartreuse and sweet vermouth. And I must say that this chartreuse, this liqueur, pairs really well with the botanicals of the gin. It really makes the juniper flavor taste a little bit like piney, and it really is comforting. It works really well. Then the sweetness and herbaceousness from the vermouth and that small cacao flavor really pairs wonderfully with the liqueur. It is a delicious drink and I love it. So my friends, this is it for me today. Thank you very much for watching. And before we go, I would like to say that I still believe that the previous version of the DIY chartreuse, or I should say the technique used in the previous version, still works. So if you have that, if you have the sous vide equipment but don't have the ISI canister, use that instead. Use the new specs and you're going to be really happy. If you have the cream whipper, use that because I think it's even better. So I think overall the specs are great. Both techniques work and you do whatever you want to do. So my friends, this is it for me today. Thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel before you go. Turn that bell if you want to make sure not to miss the next one. Until then, thank you very much again. Have a great day and see you very soon. Cheers.